All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardinellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And, there's a lot of chatter going around online. Some people are going so far in the Bernie Bro community as to say that Andrew Yang endorsed Bernie Sanders. Others are saying that there's been nothing official said about delegates and we don't know what's going to happen. And the truth is, there was an interview in which Andrew Yang was asked potentially where he could see his followers lending their support should he not reach the 15% viability threshold. Why? Because in most polls, he's not hitting 15%. So the assumption of the orthodoxy would be that his delegates would have to go elsewhere, even though he actually could pool with other delegates. And there's a million other things that could happen. The orthodox question to ask somebody in his position would be, where could you see your delegates lending their support? Now, this isn't an official endorsement for the entire 2020 election. This is specific to the Iowa caucuses, but it has created a lot of confusion that we are hopefully going to clarify here. So, Cody, tell us what's going on.
Well, I guess we'll start with how the story's kind of chronologically came across the story. And we'll work back that way. So yesterday, this article came out from Bloomberg News. Now, Bloomberg, I've seen it described by Bloomberg as a Bloomberg roundtable of reporters. But anyway, Andrew Yang was sitting down with some reporters, and a question came up of who, if anyone, would he encourage his supporters to back if they found themselves not viable at the Iowa caucus. Again, just real quick recap. They basically they'll show up to the caucus, they'll split you up into certain rooms. If the group you go into is 15% of the people there, they'll make you pick someone else. So it's not, and before we get too far into it, I want to highlight this article as well, by the way. It's an article from New York Times from 2 days ago, I believe, saying Biden aides pursuing an Iowa caucus alliance with Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar's campaign signaled no interest in such a plan under which candidate would encourage supporters to back the other in certain precincts. So Amy wasn't having it. Larger point being, this isn't like some weird thing where it's like, oh, see, Andrew's. It's like this is generally speaking what candidates are going to start doing at this time of the cycle is they're going to start saying, okay, who can I get some, because there is going to be times where, Biden's viable, Klobuchar isn't. And if you can get Klobuchar, tell her supporters to go to Biden in those instances. Now, it's weird to me, and I'm just looking around. This isn't unheard of. This happens, I think, more times than not in this caucus when there's this many people, at least. But what's weird to me is this. It's so early, right? Like, it's so early in the cycle to be telling your supporters to support another candidate. But let's get to what we were talking about before. That was a little bit of a tangent. So, Bloomberg runs the article saying Andrew Yang says supporters may go to Sanders in Iowa caucus. Now, one thing that stood out is very bizarre. It's actually a pretty decent article talking about the entire, 10-minute interview they had where he talks about many things. He talks about cryptocurrency and coronavirus in this article, in this interview. Yet they decided to headline it with him talking about this one thing.
Yeah,
so
it's actually kind of foolish.
And I think it's really interesting to me that
the same people that called him a tech entrepreneur for the first year of his presidency instead of business person are the same ones that say, oh, this interview was about an endorsement of Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, well, then again, the thing that's not even an endorsement. What he says isn't shocking. I would probably agree with him. This is the quote. And I looked at the interview. It's basically what he says. He says, I think that Bernie and I do have a lot of overlap in support, so it wouldn't be surprising to me if many of our supporters head in that direction. Which, yes, I would have literally said that the day before if you had asked me.
Well, it's the two
who do you
youngest.
Think the second one, it's like, yeah, exactly. They have a lot of overlap in support. The young demographic is one. Andrew Yang just won I think they called it the young people straw poll in Iowa. I don't know. There's like teenagers.
Well,
mostly.
and in these college
he just
polls,
won it. Like, it's like Andrew Yang is overlapping with them.
Yeah, and Andrew Yang's pulling double digits, getting super high marks in a bunch of these college polls, along with really only one other person, Bernie Sanders. Every once in a while, you get a Midwestern college poll that has like Pete Buttigieg higher, or, there was a couple of breakout polls for Kamala and Tulsi and so on and so forth. But nothing compared, like amongst the young Democrats, Andrew Yang and Bernie Sanders are the juggernauts.
Yeah, well, here we go.
Okay.
Here's the youth straw poll from Iowa itself, and you can see Andrew Yang is separated by 1%, less than 1.5 percentage points in Bernie. Like, they are very similar there. However, I want to get into just back a little bit here. So I want to get through this so we can talk about what's kind of happening, because they go on and talk about, and this is the second thing I wanted to bring up, which is that Yang said that several candidates, whom we would not name, have reached out to his campaign about supporting them. And I think it's actually the other article. I apologize. I want to pull up where actually is the quote where, here we go. This is where he elaborates a little bit. Again, the reason I want to show you guys the Bloomberg article first is because notice how Newsweek frames this. They have that same quote. I think that Bernie and I do have a lot of overlap in support, so it wouldn't be surprising. However, they left out what he says after, which is also important. Keep in mind. He says, I frankly think I'd have a hard time getting them to do anything they're not naturally inclined to do, Yang said of his supporters. I think most people are going to show up on caucus night with a few top choices in mind, and I imagine if I'm not viable at their caucus, they know exactly who they're going to go to. So I think it's really important to mind. Andrew Yang didn't say
that's a lot different.
He's
than
not
the first
telling
sentence.
people to go support Bernie. He's just saying, if I had to look at my supporter base, Bernie's probably the second choice of the average person who supports me, and I can't really tell them who to support. They'll probably support whoever they want anyway. That's what Andrew Yang, that's not basically said. That's literally what he said, and it's interesting you're seeing a lot of people run with, Yang's going to have a supporter support Bernie, because he also goes on to mention, here we go, under the idea of campaigns reaching out to Andrew Yang, he says, I think some campaigns have reached out to our team. My team will sort out what the heck is being conveyed. Again, large point being, as far as Andrew Yang has actually said from his own mouth, there's very little going on as far as possible alliances, as far as backing Sanders. I have not seen or heard him say anything legitimate about that. All he has said is, you know what? I think a lot of my supporters also support Bernie Sanders. That's basically what he said.
Well, I also haven't been hearing a lot of chatter about Bernie Sanders forging some secret alliances, but I've been reading a bunch of articles where people have talked about the Biden campaign doing a lot of outreach to hopefully pick up some of these delegates from
like
the
Amy
smaller.
Klobuchar.
Yeah, exactly. Biden's apparently really working the system, and I could see him actually being really good at that. I mean, there's a reason why he's been able to stay a senator re-election after re-election after re-election and be a Washington elite for 41 or 42 years now, and it's not because of the stuff that gets done out in the open. It's not because of the transparent stuff. It's because of those backdoor deals on delegates and caucusing and so on and so forth. So I'm actually really excited to see how well Biden does perform, because I think that the passion of the Yang gang will be advantageous in a caucus system. And I think these at-large delegates and these kind of, deals that can be done outside of the headlines and that old school politicking is going to be advantageous to people like Joe Biden. It's just so different and kind of more 19th century. You know what I'm saying? So I'm curious to see who does well there. But yeah, all kinds of people misrepresented this in the media. And I almost feel like we're correcting the record in this video, saying, look, Andrew Yang basically said, spoiler alert, wild surprise here, that I allow my fans and my supporters to pick people politically who, where, and what they may. And if I'm not viable, they probably already have an idea because they have their own minds, you know what I'm saying, where they're going to go and what they're going to do with that mind. So any kind of insinuation that this was an endorsement and not anything other than an observation that, yeah, we're probably the two youngest crews and young people like other young people, anything outside of that, it to me is just disingenuous and intellectually dishonest.
Again, I want to point out that Newsweek and Time did get it right in their stories. They did have the full interview video linked in the Bloomberg piece we've showed here, but it's of the interview to pick up your headline that breaking Andrew Yang supporters also might like Bernie. It's like, yeah, dude, duh. It's like basically the same demo in a lot of instances. Not the same. I know a lot of, for example, I would never vote for Bernie Sanders. That being said, while there's a large portion of Andrew Yang supporters who are not Bernie Sanders fans, if I had to guess which other candidate people would be most likely to vote for over anyone else, I don't see people going for Biden or Amy Klobuchar. I'd probably guess Bernie Sanders as well. But yeah, exactly. There was a lot of confusion. We saw about people talking about what this meant. Is Andrew Yang telling people to vote for Bernie Sanders? No, he's actually saying he doesn't think he can tell people anything. I think his exact word is what? I think I'd have a hard time getting them to do anything they're not naturally inclined to do. So again, this is kind of what it seems like happens as you get towards Iowa. I think with so many people running, as 538 noted in the video we were talking about before we brought it up, this is one of the closer Iowa caucuses as far as amount of candidates that potentially could be viable on caucus night across the state. That's a little bit unique, so we might see a ramp up of these alliances being forged, but I mean, hey, if it happens on Survivor, it's going to happen in a presidential election, right? People are going to come and try to make little alliances. So I think it's basically the talk we're seeing. Andrew Yang even mentioned in this article multiple
happens on
campaigns
Survivor.
have reached out to him and asked him to potentially do it. So the other thing I would just say, though, is it also speaks to, I would say, a little bit for Amy in the Biden example, right?
Uh-huh.
But I would say when campaigns are coming to you and asking if you'll have your your supporters pledge support to them if they're not viable, it also tells me that they're noticing. If multiple candidates are reaching out to Andrew Yang and saying, "Hey, like people are going to want a piece of that Yang gang," and as it goes and as it grows, these campaigns aren't blind. They see the energy and enthusiasm behind Andrew Yang. They're going to try to steal it. They're going to try to get that on their side because it's kind of a sad truth of life, but it's
You're not exciting. He is exciting.
But it's like those are the people that are going to covet that Yang gang more than anyone. More than Andrew Yang even would. Even
it's like me. It's like,
cool,
I
like
wish
me.
I were as cool as Cody the Oracle. See, all these people in the chat are always like, yeah, Cody's the man, yeah. He's like so cool. Oh yeah, sick Dota reference, dude. And I'm like, what's Dota? You know? And then I was like, wait, I want to be cool. I want these people to like me too. And like, Cody, how can I be cool? Like, Cody, can I hire you? You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I'm the Joe Biden, you know, and you're the Andrew Yang. And so it's just like whatever I can do to get a piece of that, man, because I crave a piece of that.
Spare me. Anyway, moving on. Not moving on. Just to put a bow on it. Andrew Yang is not telling people to support Joe Biden. This Bloomberg article that got circulated around and started this. It's not a crap article. It's a dumb headline. I don't know why they gave it that headline. Talk about a lot. The bottom line here is Andrew Yang basically, he made a big mistake, and he honestly answered a question from a journalist, and they ran with it and did what they do. So, again, the direct quote from Andrew Yang is, I think that Bernie and I do have a lot of overlap in support, so I wouldn't be surprised to me if many of our supporters head in that direction. So, there we go.
Anyway, let us know what you guys think. Do you feel the mainstream media failed on this? I was actually, this was brought to my attention because the headline on the Rational National said, oh yeah, Andrew Yang endorses Bernie. I was like, what? So this has kind of been a runaway headline that we kind of had to demystify a little bit here. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. If you haven't had a chance, please please subscribe. Make sure you hang out with us tonight on our live stream. We live stream Monday and Thursday, usually around 5:30. And follow us on Twitter at PSP Radio 1, Instagram at Problem Solver Politics. And if you want to walk away with a cool hat, make sure you check us out at ProblemSolverPolitics.com. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.